And greetings. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. We're brought to you by our friends over at Jace Medical. There's a little bit of uncertainty happening in the world right now. Strait of Hormuz, it's a narrow shipping route on Iran's southern border. Roughly a quarter of the world's oil travels through that strait every single day. A lot of things that you expect to get shipped to you require what substance in order for said shipping to take place? That'd be oil. Yeah. So, again, just consider the domino effects of how that may look. Just another reminder to make sure you're ready for, that can never happen here, when it keeps happening here over and over and over and over and over again. All right, and that's why you want to make sure you've got backups from our friends at Jace Medical. They've been on the show now for going on 4 or 5 years? And they want to make sure that you're prepared to take as much control over your health as you can, right? You can't operate on yourself and stuff like that. So the amount of agency you have in your healthcare is already limited, but don't make it even more so. All right, make sure you got backups to some of the most important medications in human history. Make sure you got backups to your medications and other first aid and preparedness needs as well. You can customize it even to the aforementioned verboten, ivermectin can be included as well. All right, enter the promo code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code DEACE at JASE.com. Promo code DEACE at JASE.com. All right, quick little, first of all, coming up on today's show, interesting question asked of President Trump the other day. Just see this. Hey, what's Vice President J.D. Vance's position on the Operation Epic Fury? And the president gave, I thought, a pretty transparent answer as well. Well, that caught the eye of our good friend Bob Vanderplots, who just so happens to have a place of prominence here in the first in the nation caucus state that's been proven over and over again. So we're going to discuss that clip coming up, and then we're going to discuss what you guys want to talk about next hour with an Ask Me Anything. All right. Now, a quick housekeeping item, though, I need to let you know about. So last week we discovered late in the week that, well, upwards of tens of thousands of you have not gotten a new episode of this show in almost a week via the Apple problem and the iTunes issue. So we're working on that. Apple assures us they are working on a, quote, glitch. Not sure exactly how that could happen, but it did. I did find out today from a few other people in the industry, this has happened to their shows. It's not widespread, so maybe it is a glitch. Okay. The timing is fascinating.
Is this the kind of glitches that is always the one-way glitch that only goes in one direction?
It is. It's true. I mean, we're never going to wake up and have tens of thousands more subscribers. Oh, sorry guys, it was a glitch. Yeah, these always only go one way. So tens of thousands of you have not gotten episodes in up to a week. Now, two things on this. One where you guys can help us. Number one, if you're on Apple, hit follow to hit unfollow to unfollow the show, and then follow it again. All right. There's a decent chance, it's not 100%, but there's a decent chance that will fix the glitch. I mean, how just ridiculous. If you will unplug it and then plug it back in. Then again, for much of our lifetimes, Todd, we have been working with that very technical maneuver to fix everything from TVs to radios to computers, right?
Could we call up Henry Winkler? Can the Fonz just hit the jukebox for us?
Indeed. You know, so there's a decent chance if you hit unfollow and then follow again that everything will show up as normal. All right? So until this is fixed, we're going to need tens of thousands of you people to do that for us, if you don't mind. So, and of course, many of the people that we need to do this don't know that we need them to do this.
Yeah, I know.
Because they're not tuned in because they can't get the podcast version. So, no problems there at all.
That's great.
So, first we have the largest video platform on planet Earth that will not even let us get 5,000 views for an episode. All right. Despite the size of overall size of audience we have. And now we have the largest podcast platform on planet Earth that had a, quote, glitch, and we've lost tens of thousands of our subscribers. And so now here's the other solution to this, though. Okay. This is, again, why you want to become a subscriber to Blaze TV. Because if you're a subscriber, you get this content directly from us. There's no more ongoing 6 years of punitive censorship from YouTube that requires 16 state attorneys general to write a letter saying, what you doing, to Google, the biggest company on planet Earth. There's no waiting around to see if one of the other biggest companies on planet Earth, Apple, can get around to fixing the glitch. You can just get this content directly from us, so you don't have to worry about this stuff. All right, blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace. You'll get $20 off your annual subscription to Blaze TV when you do that. That's blazetv.com/Deace. Code Deace. You'll get $20 off your annual subscription, and you won't have to worry about the next time there's a glitch and the next time, how many YouTube TV channels have we started, Aaron? I know it's 3 or 4 at least. It's somewhere in there.
A point of personal privilege.
Of course.
I just looked this up. Real simple syndication is the backbone of podcasting technology. Yesterday was its 27th anniversary. It's been around for 27 years, and Apple is screwing this up. Just point of personal privilege, over.
So again, you can unfollow to unsubscribe and then follow to resubscribe. And there's a decent chance, though not a guarantee, that will fix the issue. And if you could help, where you guys could also help is maybe if you guys posted this stuff on your socials for us, maybe it might catch other people that won't get a chance to hear this, if we kind of just do this word of mouth. All right, that would help. But another way that it helps, if you guys just get this content directly from us, blazetv.com/Deace. Use the promo code Deace, you'll get $20 off. And then no more glitches and no more punitive censorship that apparently is a never-ending story. And with that, here's Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by the Crown Jewel. President Trump announced late Friday U.S. forces struck military targets on Iran's crucial Kharg Island. Trump described the island as the crown jewel of the Iranian regime, and he's right. The strategic island accounts for around 90% of Iran's oil exports, but Trump carefully noted only military targets on the island were targeted. The Pentagon has identified the 6 airmen killed in an aircraft crash in western Iraq last Thursday. The airmen are 33-year-old Major John Clinner of Auburn, Alabama, 31-year-old Captain Ariana Savino of Covington, Washington, 34-year-old Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt of Bardstown, Kentucky, 38-year-old Captain Seth Koval of Mooresville, Indiana, 30-year-old Captain Curtis Angst of Wilmington, Ohio, and 28-year-old Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons of Columbus, Ohio. Heroes one and all, and we pray for their families. Central Command provided yet another update on U.S. efforts to defang the Iranian regime, saying the U.S. destroyed 90 military targets on the aforementioned Kharg Island over the weekend, including storage bunkers for naval mines and missiles and other military infrastructure. Aviators have flown 6,000 combat flights. U.S. military objectives include eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles, drones, and naval threats. U.S. is also going after the wider manufacturing apparatus behind Iran's launchers, missiles, and drones, and is seeking to dismantle Iran's defense industrial base. The U.S. is also focused on eliminating Iran's threat to the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz, not to be confused with the Gay of Hormuz, Iran's new supreme leader Mojtaba Khomeini, who, according to the New York Post, President Trump was briefed on last week, with intelligence pointing towards the possibility the younger Khomeini is a homosexual. The Post says Trump laughed when he heard the intel report. Our #1 rated homosexual Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says what we're doing with Iran is a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
We want to destroy the Iranian ability to project power outside of their borders. And, Brian, Iran was the head of the snake for global terrorism everywhere. Whether it was through their proxies or, there were Iranian Guard members in Venezuela. There's Hezbollah in Colombia. They're interacting with Cuba. Everywhere that there is chaos and terrorist mayhem, it is Iran.
In other news and notes from over the weekend, Megyn Kelly accused Mark Levin of having a micropenis, prompting a strong defense of Levin from President Trump on Truth Social last night, where he said, among other things, quote, "Those that speak ill of Mark will quickly fall by the wayside. They are not MAGA. I am." Tucker Carlson says,
"There's a good chance I may have committed some light treason."
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted a video on social media where he says in Hebrew he's dying for coffee and encouraged viewers to count his fingers. The video comes after a multi-day info op, one of the most retarded we've seen yet, claiming Israel's leader had been slain by Iran in a rocket attack. And finally, after long last, all jokes aside, we do have proof of life of Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khomeini, who gave an interview to state media this morning.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Birch Gold. You know, in 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. At today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth over $165,000. That's why smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals. Gold has been a hedge against uncertainty and debasement schemes for literally eons. And even better, Birch Gold can help you to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. Just get started by texting my name, Steve, to the number 989898. Receive your free info kit on gold, no obligation, just useful information. With an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of happy customers let Birch Gold Group help you diversify with gold and get that peace of mind today. Get started by texting Steve to 989898. Text my name, Steve, to the number 989898.
There was a time not very long ago when a montage filled with stories of Mark Levin's penis and are you gay to the Iranian leader, you would have had to take in a moment there to collect yourself, but you just went right into that read. Like, that's just another day that ends in Y now.
It is. Okay. Not to, and I got to be honest, man. I'm just kind of, I'm gut punched with this Apple thing. It just is like, you know, what else? Just let's pile on. Okay, you try to make a movie, almost die twice. All right. Somehow create a video platform that is not permitted access on the largest video platform on planet Earth. But because your podcast audience is so large, you are able to sustain that nevertheless. And now it's not nearly as large. So here we are. Yes. Not even locker room humor will cheer me up on this Monday. No. And we had a blizzard in the middle of March. You know, I love March snow on top of that. So, yes. So I'm in a bit of a mood. Okay. And I was going to say something that in response to something Aaron had in his montage. And now I don't remember what it was.
Well, just get started.
There were two things. Aaron, just run down the montage again, highlight it for me, because there's a point I thought that needed to be made.
Striking military targets on Kharg Island.
Yep.
We had the 6 airmen tragically in that crash over western Iraq. We also had the gearing up to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, not to be confused with the Gay of Hormuz, Ayatollah Khomeini.
That's the one right there. I want to address that. Okay. The reality is homosexuality has been rampant in Bedouin cultures for eons. So, it's now Bedouin cultures are typically more Arab, but and of course Iran is not, but they're also very Muslim, and Iran is. But I mean, homosexuality, pederasty, which is the grooming of pubescence into sexual deviancy, that is the choice of the deviant doing the grooming, was rampant all throughout the eras of the Crusades, the Ottoman Empire. It's been rampant all throughout the Bedouin world, in the Muslim world. It's been rampant for eons. This is really nothing new. Nothing new. I want to discuss, and maybe because I am in this mood. If I wasn't in this mood, I probably would not. But I'm in this mood, right? So why not? Let's discuss what's happening in the podcast world, shall we?
We shall.
Since, Aaron, you put it in your montage, and I probably would not have brought it up unless you did.
That's one of the questions coming in hour 2, by the way.
Okay, because you'll notice I have said absolutely zero about any of this all weekend long, and that is not accidental. It's on purpose. And the reason being is because I think online is the absolute worst place to discuss this, because it's retarded. When I logged on this morning to get caught up in what's going on, I thought this might be the most retarded collection of retards I've ever seen. And in all my years of doing this. I have never seen more combined retardation in my feed. I've had this feed for 16 years. I've just think about all the things we've lived through too. Stolen elections, scamdemics, right? Okay. 16 years, I can't recall ever seeing a level of retardation like what is currently happening. And man, I think a lot of that Charlie Kirk meme where he's the giant dam holding back this big escalating body of water called right-wing retardation. And behind him as the dam is the right learning to unite and win. I mean, that meme, man, it's got a permanent place right here on my desktop. I look at it at least a few times a week. There's barely a day that goes by I don't think about it and that it's not confirmed. But here's the reason I want to talk about it, because if we were going to get into the melodrama, I would have what's going on online is just all the melodrama. Whose camp are you in? Whose do you like? Who's got the best put down? Okay, who's, an Israeli agent and who's bought off by the Muslims? It's just all retardation. And I'm just not interested in discussing that online, with a lot of retards. I'm just not going to do that. But here, I think maybe we should discuss it for a couple of minutes because I know a lot of you are aware of it. And these are some of the most important voices that our industry has ever produced. And here's how I want to approach this. I want to look at this. What's the thing we're the best at? I'd put us up against any show out there when it comes to worldview. Diagnosis and analysis. That's my home. That's my, native tongue. That's the thing I think we're the best at. And I also don't know I know them all the people that you guys are talking about and that are involved in these back and forths. I know them all on a first name basis, but I don't know any of them well enough to make some kind of wide sweeping value judgment of motivations. With one exception. I am confident in saying, based on the extent of my own interactions with Tucker Carlson, that he believes the nation of Israel is an evil country, and that Bibi Netanyahu in particular is a central hub of evil in the world. And I've had more extensive conversations with him about this than I have any of the other people, Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, Mark Levin, involved. So I'm confident in that. Because he's just communicated those motivations to me. So I'm not as confident in communicating the motivations of other people when I've not had those conversations, and I don't know them well enough to know. Fair? Okay?
Sure.
So as best as we can, let's look at this from a worldview perspective. And there was a post over the weekend that I did respond to about this entire blow up on our side. But I responded to it because it didn't mention any names and get any of the back and forth, but tried to take the conversation like up here, raise it a level, right? And one of the things, and you'll see it in my feed if you follow me on X, @SteveDeace, you'll see that I did respond to a post by somebody called The Drunk Republican, and that's where we are. All right. If you live in the right-wing online world, you need to go to a guy who calls himself The Drunk Republican to get some clarity. Is that even a mild exaggeration?
I'm drunk right now.
I mean, yeah. This guy's called The Drunk Republican. He's the less retarded of anybody. Let me put it that he's the most sober out there, okay? Basically. All right. One of the things he said, and this is why his post caught my eye, is that collectively, a lot of the worldviews on our side were broken by COVID. And that's what got my attention. Because who was one of the landmark leaders in pushing back on that narrative?
Us.
As far as I know, I'm not aware of any other American who has 2 different certified national bestsellers deconstructing the COVID narrative. And if you look at a lot of the people, not exclusively, but would we all say, just based on just observationally, it's not a super majority, but would we all say a majority of those who are the most skeptical about Israel and this particular war were also amongst the friendliest to our overall COVID speculation or skepticism. You think that's a fair disposition, Aaron? You think that's fair?
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah,
taking
I
an
think
issue
so.
with it.
Okay. I mean, I don't think it's like 90% or something,
No,
but I think
but-
it's at least 50%.
Sure.
Maybe 50.1, maybe 55, 45, 65, 35, somewhere in there. A majority of those, the most skeptical of Israel and the most skeptical of this war, okay, and the quote unquote official story on Charlie's murder would be people who, by and large, were very supportive of the work that we did during COVID.
There's a lot of overlap.
There is. Okay. So then I think I should explain to you why I'm not on their side on any of this. And there's two reasons why. Worldview and facts. Other than that, though, I'm nearly persuaded. Let me tell you something you guys don't know, just to give you a little context to this conversation. I've always had a great amount of respect for Mark Levin. He gave me one of the most mind-blown moments I've ever had as a consumer of conservative talk radio when I was coming up. The first time I ever heard Mark Levin say we're not a nation of immigrants, we're a nation of citizens blew my mind. I had to pull the car over almost. It just blew my mind. I hadn't even thought about that, how profound that was. That being said, Mark and I privately, you guys know this. The management here at The Blaze knows this. But very few other people know that Mark Levin and I nearly got into a flat-out shouting, screaming match over the COVID jab. You guys remember this?
Yes.
Yeah. Very few people know this. There was really, hey, you're going to have disagreements in a company like this. Mark is on it, not with us anymore. Okay. But I have the utmost respect for Mark Levin on multiple fronts. But during COVID, our show sounded a lot different than his sounded, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm not really native to either one of these two tribes, and I don't think it's as simple as Team Levin and Team Tucker. I put a trick question on my Facebook page last week just to see how many people would step on the banana peel / rake and take the bait, and a lot did, unfortunately. Okay.
No way.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah. And this is not new. Paul says in the New Testament, some of you say you were saved by me. Some of you say you were saved by Apollos. Some of you say you were saved by Aquila, okay, or Cephas. There's just one Lord, one baptism overall. So right away, we always have this high-minded view of the early church and how they just all walked the narrow road in perfect form, okay? Like Christian soldiers marching off to war. It's like watching an army of Christians just in perfect lockstep, in perfect form. No, they were already arguing with each other. They're human beings too. They were already tribalisting this thing, man. They were already doing it. Founding father, Thomas Jefferson's like, man, if I should go to heaven, but only with members of a political party, I should never go at all. Then 5 minutes after he wrote that, he turned around and blew up a lifelong friendship with John Adams over which political party they were both going to be in. True story. It's human nature. It's just human nature. It's what it means to live in a fallen world. How I try to avoid as best as I can to fall into that is with my worldview and with facts. And if you look at the work that we did during COVID, almost none of it was speculative. When you and I published that #1 bestseller, Todd, Fauci and Bargain, there were more footnotes than pages in that book. How many of them were challenged, fact-checked, PolitiFacted? How many of them?
I think they started trying. They realized they couldn't on any of them, so then they just ignored it.
It was all zero. It was just all evidence-based facts. And most of my evidence came from government sources. See, the evidence that we were telling you the truth about this all along was out there. They just didn't want, and a lot of times it was their own CDC. We used CDC data in that book. We used data from health departments of major nations and G8 NATO nations all over the globe. I mean, none of it was just theorizing. It was all fact-based. They just didn't want you to know the facts. They deployed the media and corporate America to lie to you to get you to succumb to a psyop. But they knew all along. Their data knew all along. They just hid the data from you. Trusted you wouldn't do the homework. That is nothing like what's gone on here with Tyler Robinson and Charlie's murder. And now Erica Kirk is doing that was the big thing this weekend. She's trafficking children. Did you see that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just wicked, evil, vile stuff from Candace and her cult and the minions and wannabes that are now trying to compete with her for, most vile person online. No facts at all. There's no official story on Tyler Robinson. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence, but there's going to be a trial here pretty soon. We just found out whole thing's going to be on TV, and we'll all get to watch and see what evidence is presented. Maybe he'll plead out before that, but then that means he realizes the evidence was so far against him that he pled out. So I guess you can't care more about Tyler Robinson's innocence than Tyler Robinson does if he pleads, right? Probably not, yeah. Well, you could, but then you'd be a demonic retard, okay? There's never any evidence here. All we ever did, our COVID skepticism was all on evidence. It's all on evidence. And then there comes down to my worldview. My biblical worldview takes precedence over everything else, which is why sometimes you'll see me deep in it looks like I'm deep with one group of people, then another issue comes along, and then I'm not with those people, but against them. How does that happen? Because that's a narrow road. I think a lot of people have just decided since COVID that anything that looks or sounds official is now automatically wrong. The problem with doing that is it's very reactionary. And it's similar to when the leftists said during postmodernism, well, if everything official is wrong, that's a little bit like saying, well, there's no absolute truth. Well, that sounds like an absolute, right?
Right.
Well, if everything official is wrong, is that your official position? Is that your official declaration? Is that your official stance? So how do I not know, therefore, that is not wrong? It's a self-refuting statement. And so anything at all that looks like it's official, automatically go against. I think Megyn and Tucker have found themselves in this position. And if there's one thing I'm the most resentful about that crowd, is they're making me agree with Ben Shapiro again, and I freaking am really pissed about that. If there's anything about the whole thing I'm really pissed off the most about, is that you're making me agree with Ben Shapiro again. That's really upsetting me. But again, just because something is official doesn't mean it's wrong. Well, Steve, Lindsey Graham agrees with you that the Ayatollahs are bad. Okay, well, if Lindsey Graham suddenly agreed that Lucky Charms cereal was great, should my taste buds change? That's not a standard. That's how children think. But the American worldview is very broken. We have simultaneously in the last generation have schools take critical thinking permanently out of education so they can inculcate you so that you'll be a drone. And at the same time, the church has largely just gotten out of the, worldview formation and contending for hearts and souls business. And it's just contending for tithing units. And the collision of these two things now, we don't have an educated populace, which the founders thought was the greatest weapon against tyranny. We don't have an educated populace anymore. And then we don't have an educated cachet of saints any longer either. And those two things together have broken America. And so what you see is Tucker often is making claims that are just often factually not true. I have no idea if his current CIA claim is true. Thank you, Aaron, for not putting that in the montage. There's a reason I might be the most high-profile personality in America and didn't comment on that all weekend. I think it's just as possible that's true as Tucker just made the whole thing up in order to get attention. I have no clue. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But if your worldview begins with, I'm automatically against anything other than what the Bible says is good, you are going to fall into a snake pit. And you're going to become what you once claimed you hated. Because the only things in this world that you should consistently be against are the things the Word of God says to consistently be against. And everything else you have to take on a case-by-case basis, and that's critical thinking. And you got to do that through the prism of, does it line up with the Word of God? And then does it line up with the facts? And what two things are missing from a lot of this online discourse between these top 4 or 5 podcasters and everybody all going at each other? In much of the discourse that you see online, what's often missing is facts. Particularly on one side here, the side that says to be skeptical of everything is to be smart. Well, then should I be skeptical of you and be even smarter?
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Maybe you guys saw me wearing a really cool gray hoodie last week. Well, actually, tens of thousands of you didn't. Thanks to Apple. But not that I'm bitter, but I'm very, very, in fact. Anywho, if you did, if you were one of the lucky few that got to see that really cool gray hoodie I was wearing last week, it's from our friends over at Conduit Clothing, right? So they don't just do really cool casual clothing. They do that. But they're mission-driven, not margin-driven. And so they are trying to pass out right now 500 ESV Bibles, not just to you, but the people you know that don't have one, right? They want to multiply here the Word of God, right? So if you want to get really cool gear, and then on top of that, make sure you put the most important thing on the earth, the only perfect thing on the earth, the Word of God, into the hands of somebody that needs it. Go to conduitclothing.com. Use the code Steve. You'll get free shipping right now. Conduit, as in a conduit for Christ. CONDUIT. Conduitclothing.com. Use the promo code Steve. You'll get free shipping. Lots of cool casual gear there. So you can wear your faith and wear the messages of your faith. Maybe those will be conversation starter. Who knows? They might even be conversation enders with some of the people that you'd prefer to keep quiet. Works both ways. Conduitclothing.com. CONDUIT. Use the promo code Steve for free shipping at conduitclothing.com, code Steve. And we welcome in our good friend, Bob Vanderplots from the Family Leader. Good to see you, my man. How are you?
Good to see you. And thanks for wearing that gray hoodie. I did see you.
You did see that. Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
But you need to take a bite out of that apple. You don't need to be Steve Deace Unplugged.
That situation, man.
Did we have to go here?
You did. You went there.
I went there.
I was going to move on. You went there.
I heard it privately.
Because believe me, I've been parked here all weekend long. I've just begun to vent. All right.
Oh,
it's only our livelihood.
I know it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to panic.
Well, if they're going to miss a show, don't miss Mondays. How we doing?
All right. I didn't think much of this when I saw the clip we're about to show the audience. I just thought, oh, that's interesting. But what made it very interesting to me is when I saw that you highlighted it. Okay? Because, for people that don't know, and for the tens of thousands of people who can't hear this right now because of Apple, they may find out later.
Sure.
Who knows? Maybe these shows one day will get restored. We'll see. Okay. But you have a reputation for having a bit of influence in the Iowa presidential caucuses here in our home state.
Every now and then.
And of course, that process is going to start here about, well, if we lose badly, it's going to start about 5 minutes after the midterms. And if the midterms do not go as bad as they look right now, they might. It'll start 15 minutes after the midterms, right? Okay, so it's going to be pretty soon here that this process is going to kick into high gear.
And unofficially, it's already started.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. But the fact you highlighted this got my attention. So let's play this clip for the audience.
Points of disagreement between yourself and your vice president when it comes to U.S. action in Iran?
I don't think so, no. No, we get along very well on this. He was, I would say, philosophically a little bit different than me. I think he was maybe less enthusiastic about going, but he was quite enthusiastic. But I felt it was something we had to do. I didn't feel we had a choice. If we didn't do it, they would have done it to us. I felt, based on the negotiations that were being had by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and Marco and Pete and everybody was involved, I felt that they were looking to tap us along before they hit, and I thought they were going to hit. And if they hit us first, that would have been a very bad thing. In the back, please, in the back.
All right. Why did you highlight this?
I highlighted, I think I put the word insightful. And insightful because we know there's a division taking place. And J.D. Vance is the wingman of President Donald Trump. And if he is to run for president, he's not going to be able to separate himself from some of these issues. And we know that Tucker Carlson believes this is grievously evil. I forget what the exact words that he had, but everybody else knows that Tucker's relationship with J.D. is very, very strong. And so I thought it was insightful on a couple. And one is that a reporter asked, where's JD in these negotiations? Is he with you? Is he enthusiastic about this? And I thought Trump's answer was also kind of telling. You saw him think about it, almost take a deep breath. And even when he used the word philosophically, he was more philosophical. Well, that's kind of JD anyhow, right? He is more philosophical. That's what we appreciate about JD as well. He's very bright. But then Trump saying, he might not have been as enthusiastic, but he was still enthusiastic. Now, everybody can read into that what they want to read into, the way Trump characterized that, but kind of like the way I took it as, okay, I'll go along with this. And quite frankly, when you're vice president, you don't have a whole lot of choice anymore. You will go along with this. When you agreed to be vice president, you agreed to go along with this. But now you're going to have to own it as well. And so when you take a look at the fractures or the divisions taking place, to me, it does lend itself to 2028. JD's going to have to answer these questions. If Ted Cruz is in the race, he's going to make sure JD answers these questions. If it's Ron DeSantis, Glenn Youngkin, Brian Kemp, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, you name the ones who are probably all going to be in this race, JD's going to have to own a lot of this stuff. Now, some of the stuff is going to be very good to own. Some of it's going to be stuff he'd rather run away from. But I thought it was insightful, A, the reporter's question, and then B, I thought just the way Trump responded to it both non-verbally and verbally.
So I've had a few conversations with some little birdies about this over the last week, I would say.
Over this exact clip or over the whole situation?
Over the whole situation.
Okay.
And then this clip kind of emerged, because you're right, unofficially. I was discussing when it unofficially begins, which is right after the midterms.
Sure.
But the unofficial beginning has already begun.
Sure.
That is true. All right. So I had a couple little birdie conversations about this. And I had a couple little birdies actually come to me and ask me my opinion about this. I actually think this could not be going better for J.D. Vance.
Sure.
And let me explain why. This is setting up now that he's never going to have to clean up this mess. He's never going to have to address it. Because what is happening is that Tucker is casting himself so far out of the mainstream, so far out of Trump's mainstream, which right now on the right is really the only mainstream that ultimately matters.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing that so much so and JD has to own every action of the Trump administration. Not to mention, that's totally fine, because no one's going to win the next nomination in the Republican Party running against the Trump administration, right? So even stuff that they do that we don't agree with or we don't think is working out, right? Like, let's say this war turns into an unmitigated Iraq-like disaster, which would shock me, given the current people involved.
Sure.
But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's going to happen. Name me the candidate who's going to run on what an asinine decision Trump made and try to win the Republican nomination with that in 28. Who is that?
And after most of them, if not all of them, have said what a bold
Correct.
and courageous decision this was. Obama should have done it. George W. should have done it. George H.W. should have done it. Bill Clinton should. Nobody had the courage to do it until Donald Trump stepped into
I think
race.
I think this is giving JD a chance to actually own both sides of the argument to some degree. Which is, now this assumes at some point now, I mean, Tucker's already dropped blood libels on Jews, and we're just repeating Nazi tropes and platforming Ian Carroll.
Unconditional surrenders. We are going to rape your women.
Your soldiers get to rape your women, right? Okay.
What is this?
I mean, so who knows what this looks like in 60 days,
yep.
Right? But at the time that you and I are having this conversation on March the 16th, I mean, JD's in a position of saying, listen, my record is the policies of the Trump administration. That's my record. And on the other hand, I don't think we should be, as a movement, out to just eagerly just cast out everybody that has opinions that disagree with us and things of that nature. Obviously, my record is in opposition to much of what my friend Tucker wants to say. That's not going to change my friendship with him. If it changes his friendship with me, that's his decision. But now he is being offered, and I thought this was going to be a problem about 6 months ago. But the more radicalized Tucker has become, and now you have Trump himself essentially, taking his belt off and spanking Tucker. Did it again last night with the Mark Levin post he put on social media.
It's becoming easier to do.
Yes. And so in many respects, Trump is clearing out the brush for JD. And now JD is like, JD can just fall back on my record. I'm the vice president of the United States. My record is the record of this administration. It's not the podcast that Tucker Carlson did on February 9th of 2026. This is my record. Okay.
And even for JD, not only is Trump clearing the brush for JD, but JD could point back to that clip and say, did you hear what he said? JD was more philosophical about this. What does that mean? JD could say, I asked all the pertinent and relevant questions to make sure everybody went in eyes wide open versus eyes shut. I was an adult in the room to make sure all these questions that all of you had got addressed. And then when the decision's made, you bet I'm a loyal VP. I shouldered up with the president, and
he gets to say to that dissident wing, I'm the only voice you have.
Sure.
And I made sure your concerns were heard. But then he gets to come to Iowa and South Carolina, where the average caucus goer and the average South Carolina primary voter is going to be a 65-year-old evangelical white boomer. And he's going to get to say, and I was there the whole time that we dunked on Iran and dropped Moabs and everything else. I mean, this is actually setting up very, very well for him.
Yep.
And the other issue, at least as far as I can see, and ultimately none of this is an issue unless Marco Rubio runs.
Right.
There's none of all the other names you mentioned, like you, I know them, like them to various degrees, respect them to various degrees, fine people, okay? But the only name that makes this entire conversation relevant is Marco Rubio's, and I'm not entirely convinced he would run without knowing knowing going in the Trump endorsement was gettable, for at least gettable, or he had it. Okay.
I would say he had it, and that he saw that JD is collapsing, and because JD is collapsing, it gives him a lane to go in and run. But when I mention those other names, a lot of the other names are looking for the separation over Israel, over this Iran war, over those types of things with JD because of JD's association with Tucker. Steve, you're right. The more radicalized Tucker becomes, the more out of the mainstream he becomes, the more like, who is this Tucker anymore? It gives JD way more clearance. And you know what? JD's the one in the room where it happened. All these others are not.
Right.
So JD can say, listen, I represented all your interests. And when the president, who's a bold and courageous leader, made a bold and courageous decision, you're doggone right, I shouldered up with him.
I mean, he gets to say, I'm the unifying force of this coalition. I represent a wing that often feels like they're not heard. I make sure your voice is heard. He can go to those events, to the NatCon conferences and, whatever other stuff is going on in that wing. He can go have those conversations. He can show up at the Family Leadership Summit and at the South Carolina, wave the Israeli flag evangelical event and say, hey, I was on the administration that made the entire Iranian regime assume room temperature. I don't know. Todd and Aaron, what do you think? Because I actually think this is actually setting up very well for him.
Well, once again, it's such a bizarro world. Looking back to where we started, watching Trump come down the escalator, early debates with all those candidates, how more often than not, Donald Trump, of all people, is the grown-up in the room having the most reasonable conversation. It's who saw that coming?
And he's the one who's making the decisions. And I think if JD says that, listen, I'm philosophical by nature. There's no doubt I am. And what Trump has taught me, at some point, you need to make a decision, and you need to be able to make a decision as President of the United States. And I learned under that. I was an apprentice under that. That gives me, the bona fides to be the next President of the United States.
Aaron, what do you think?
Bob will not be able to hear this, so you'll have to relay to him what I said. You said we don't know what this will look like in 60 days. We don't know what this whole thing will look like in 6 hours. However, I agree with the analysis as it stands right now. It's kind of setting up to where J.D. Vance can play both sides, own both sides of the argument here. And I think that's probably not the prevailing wisdom that is out there right now. But when you look at it just a little bit closely, a little bit closer like you just did, I do think this is shaping up. But again, we're at war. Wars can change really, really fast. Things can come up really, really fast. So 60 days, 6 hours, it could be a lot different.
One thing I'm curious about philosophically, if one of those things is no matter how well this war goes, if we don't pass the SAVE Act,
without question,
how's that going to look to our voters? Because how much are they going to care then?
Well, that's true for this fall. Yeah.
For the midterms this fall, but the midterms definitely play into 2028. If you lose the midterms and all of a sudden it's just constant indictment, constant impeachment, President Trump or not advance anything else, that weakens a J.D. Vance in a big way.
Who's going to run on? Ted Cruz? You think Ted Cruz is going to listen, I like Ted. I was in those meetings, okay? I was in that debate prep, trying to get Ted to punch back one-on-one against Trump, not his native tongue. And so Ted's going to run on, the Trump administration has failed us. They lost us the midterms, and that's why we're bogged down. And that's why I'm in the Senate right now, in the minority, bogged down in impeachment. Is that he's going to run on that? Because I have a hard time believing that's going to happen.
Ted Cruz may not. Will others, though? I definitely believe if it's a midterm loss, that is not advantage J.D. Vance. It might be advantage to a Marco Rubio saying, listen, because Marco Rubio got unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Everybody seems to love Marco. He just takes on more and more jobs type thing. I think for J.D. to be the basically heir apparent here, I believe they do have to win the midterms.
I think the only opinion that matters is Trump's. I think that's the only opinion that matters. And I think that if on the inside, if he has lost confidence in JD to take over as a standard bearer, then he'll endorse Rubio. And barring that, I really don't think any of this matters, because there's one candidate who could try this. The problem is, and I love Ron DeSantis. The problem is he tried this to some degree. He kind of tried it when he tried to run in the primary and then kind of didn't, okay? And I just don't see a lane for can Thomas Massey beat Donald Trump in his congressional district where he's so very well known and so very well liked on an individual basis? Yeah, and he's done it before and he may do it again, okay? Could he do it nationwide?
I don't think so.
That's what you're kind of asking somebody to do.
However, though, Steve, if we're transparent and be mature about this, there's all kinds of fractures within the GOP base, all the way from what you talked about, the SAVE Act, the establishments, those who don't want Trump anymore, those who are all in for Trump. Heck, in Iowa, it's the pipeline, it's the ESA.
Don't disagree with any of that.
Everybody seems to be fractured. One thing takes care of people's division, that is winning. And if you win in 2026, I believe it's advantage J.D. Vance. If you lose in 2026, I believe those fractures get more deepened and widened, and now you have a real caucus race or primary race on your hands.
Okay. Well, we're going to have plenty. I'll give you the last word. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss this and debate this. But I knew this would be a fascinating conversation. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well.
All right, we're going to come back. Go Hawks. Nice. You guys have Clemson, right? That'll be a tough one.
We got Clemson, but remember those Cyclones. Those Cyclones could win it all. They could give your Michigan Wolverines a run.
Next hour, it's your turn to ask me anything. Stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzen, Aaron McIntyre. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, Me, We, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also find me on YouTube. I think. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe.
Did you see the email I sent you?
I saw you sent me an email. Yeah. At Deace Show on YouTube. I'm out of veins to cut. What?
It's actually good news.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, you could frame it as bad news, though, if you want to.
Well, that's...
We've by our standards, our YouTube channel has been going like gangbusters. Just so happens to coincide with a certain lawsuit.
You don't say. You mean like since a certain letter got sent from 16 state attorney generals? Is that what you're going to tell me?
I'm not alleging anything.
Just something you may have noticed? Yeah, weird. Okay. Anyway, go to our YouTube page, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then, I don't know what the hell you do with the podcast. Do we have one? Is it on? I don't know. But actually, it's just Apple. Every other podcast is apparently great. The only problem is the majority of podcasts are, well, Apple. So you can like, the like, rate, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on Apple, and you're not getting our show, which means you probably aren't hearing this, but maybe we got lucky, hit the follow button to unfollow and then refollow again. And holy crap, that just sounds really stupid. But that's apparently what we have to do here.
Have we tried carrier pigeon? Can we get our show to
send an
people that-
owl?
Whatever. Yeah.
Send an owl. Yeah. So you guys can tell, man, I'm down bad. This weekend, man, I'm down bad. So I could use all the 5-star reviews I could get. And I know that sounds like emotional blackmail. Because it is. But at this point, man, I'll take the pity affirmations. Know what I'm saying? You'll take the pity affirmations at our age. I'll take them.
You're down bad, so we're just going to let the audience start asking you questions now. I'm sure that'll...
Yes, just open it up. Ask me anything. Indeed. All right, this part of the show brought to you by Tecovas, which I've got to bust mine back out when I get home because we had a blizzard warning yesterday. But you know what? Tecovas boots, they're fantastic. They're very comfortable. They're very functional. Mine look almost exactly like they look when I first put them on. And it's not because I don't use them to do yard work. I do. I don't use them to, I do snow removal. I do all of that as well. All right. It's just because of just how well put together these boots are. They are broken in for comfort right out of the box. All right. And they not only are functional, but they look good too. So, I mean, you can just wear them for a night out if you want. And they have like just cowboy boots too, not just work boots. So right now, get 10% off Tecovas.com/Steve when you go there and you sign up for email and text alerts. That's 10% off at Tecovas, Tecovas, Tecovas for Tecovas. Tecovas.com/Steve. Get 10% off again at Tecovas.com/Steve. And with that, are we ready for some Ask Me Anything?
Are you ready for some Ask Me Anything?
A better question is, given the mood I'm in, is the audience ready for some of the answers they may get? There should be some bangers with everything going on right now, for sure. All right, I'll get through as many of these as I can, and then we'll get through what remains in the overtime today. For Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for a discounted subscription, so you don't have to worry about, will the show ever show up on YouTube again? Will I ever have the Steve Deace Show on Apple iTunes again? Just get it directly from us. blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace to get $20 off your annual subscription there and never worry about quote-unquote glitches. All right, Todd, you've got the questions. I have not seen any of these questions yet. You fed the ones to Aaron that you thought were the most interesting to get on the show this week. So, Aaron, let it rip.
All right, we'll start with Jonathan Mull. USA teams have now beaten Canada for the gold medals in women's, men's, parasled, Olympic hockey, plus a win in the World Baseball Classic quarterfinals. Is Alberta automatically ceded to the U.S. after a 5th win?
Do we want that?
Well, isn't Alberta supposedly...
Is that, yeah, so that's just, Alberta's like the Democrat Party. Because the rest of the country, except for the rural areas, like, there's 10 people per square mile.
If there's a part worth having, and apparently maybe resources-wise too, is there a trade?
So Alberta is like Austin, Texas. Like, because it's in Texas, it's very left-wing. But because it's in Texas, they still have to, be somewhat sane. See what I'm trying to say?
I do.
So it's very left-wing, but they can't be completely insane because they're in Texas. But the rest of the country is insane. Right?
Sure.
All right. So then, sure. You bet. As long as it's sane. You bet. I'm in.
Next, we go to Darlene Holt McAdams. Do you think all the fighting between so-called Christian and or conservative influencers are part of Bible prophecy?
Maybe. I will tell you this, man. I have, or actually, that was a lady that sent that, right?
I think so.
Okay, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'll tell you this, ma'am. I have, for almost 20 years, done shows on alternative eschatological theories, shows skeptical of dispensationalism, which is a buzzword that most of the people online dropping it do not know what it means at all. But what has happened here, and pretty fast, is a rate of acceleration that is just unnatural. Now, is it preternatural or is it supernatural? Okay. Answer may be yes. But it's the level of deceleration here, especially because I don't know if you guys saw, NBC News has a poll out today. Did you guys see this?
I'm not sure.
Support for Israel amongst Republicans is almost exactly what it was 10 years ago.
No.
Hasn't really changed at all. And yet, is that what we're being fed online?
The optics are clearly different.
The optics are clearly different. The last time I can remember something like this was, and I still would have been in the middle of this right about the time you came on board, but, you know, when Jen and Rebecca were here and we first launched into syndication and first went national, I went toe-to-toe with every 22-year-old millennial Ron Pauler that we were going to be the party of stoners and gay marriage, right? But there was real polling data that showed Republicans were softening on both of those issues at the time. There was. Okay? There's been no real polling whatsoever to demonstrate that that's happening on the Israel issue. So you just don't have this level of, I mean, Tucker could oppose the Israel war, or I'm sorry, the Iran war, over just our record on, our checkered record of military conflicts in the Mideast, going all the way back to the Beirut fiasco in 1983 under Reagan.
Oh,
he could just base it all on that.
He'd have a ton of overlap with you, quite frankly, on that matter in terms of.
He doesn't have to give us like mysterious sects of Judaism who are secretly in control and want to build the third temple. See, when you don't have to go to anti-Semitic tropes to make your arguments, but you kind of choose to, you see what I'm trying to say? What would we have to have any form of anti-Semitic trope to debate the wherewithal or integrity of a prolonged military engagement in the Mideast for? We don't have all kinds of evidence to show that we're not typically not really good at this. There's just not concern based on past precedent alone. Why do we have to chase? Why do we have to do this like retarded form of Timu Gnosticism for the online retards? Why do we have to do this? I see. I'm kind of inclined to think because we want to, right? Like if you're making arguments you don't have to make in order to make your point, wouldn't we all agree you're doing that because those are the arguments you want to make, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So that to me is not natural. That stuff's supernatural. And it just seems like, you know, in the last 10 minutes, and again, you find someone with a bigger platform before Apple intervened this weekend. You find somebody, and I'm still bitter, you find somebody with a bigger platform before Apple intervened this weekend that has done more shows skeptical of left behind eschatology than I have over the last almost 20 years. And I'll wait, go ahead. You're not going to find one. You're not going to find a show. You're not going to find a larger Christian platform in America than this show that has done more content skeptical of the left behind narrative than I have done. Most of my whole career. And yet, like, doesn't it seem like in the last 10 minutes, it was like, let's entertain Nazi-era anti-Semitic tropes. Allah is great. And did you know that Erica Kirk is a co-conspirator in her husband's murder? Might have pulled the trigger herself. That crap is not natural. That stuff is supernatural. And not everybody who's an anti-Zionist has persecuted Erica Kirk in the last 6 months, but everybody who has persecuted Erica Kirk in the last 6 months is an anti-Zionist. And so that stuff, to me, that's not natural. It's supernatural, driven by forces not of this world, or preternatural, driven by some forces we cannot see, but speak Arabic a lot. And think Muhammad was a dude. Or maybe a little bit of both. Any thoughts on that?
Well, from a perspective of specific biblical prophecy, I think you even saw something today that I saw about how the voices of and we've talked about this privately as a show. Maybe we've talked publicly, but about the conservatives post Trump winning, the kind of the comeback of all political comebacks.
Mm-hmm.
And now we need to start considering the math more specifically in line with what's happening now. We shouldn't that be inspiring a level of focus and unity and the art of the deal and what we can all do together? And instead the exact opposite is happening. Is that what you think they are getting at with Bible prophecy? Is it something else with false teachers? But when somebody suggests that, what comes to your mind?
There's something nefarious.
But no specific. And I ask because you bring up the Left Behind books.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if a lot of
most people don't understand. Getting rid of this Iranian regime would actually go against the Left Behind narrative, numbnuts. Okay? The Left Behind narrative kicks off with an Iran-Russian Ezekiel 38-39 invasion, or attempted invasion of Israel that God supernaturally gets rid of. Having chicks wearing bikinis in downtown Tehran again goes against that entire narrative, guys. Goes against that entire narrative.
This is why I ask.
But most of the people using the terms like disparate don't know what these things mean. And that's how you also know that's not natural. These buzzwords get just fed into systems and people instantly pick up on them and then just instantly start regurgitating them and en masse. Not natural. It's not natural. What did you and I both say the other day? Maybe the best argument for the Left Behind narrative is the reaction is how this iteration, this little nation of Israel causes people to lose their damn minds. Might be the best argument for the entire Left Behind narrative. Because this is not natural.
Which is why I asked the question. I don't claim to believe that most of the people who believe the Left Behind narrative aren't reading their Bible. But I do wonder how much. Now we're going back, Steve. What that came out when you and I were in our mid to late 20s,
somewhere in there. Yeah.
How much of that, the existence of that, it being spoken into existence in terms of 10 books, movies that came out, how much of that is just the Disney version of the Bible story is in the narrative now?
I don't know. But I do think that this stuff is not natural, what we're seeing. The rate of acceleration, how quickly it just shows up, how quickly it's descended into places. I mean, I'm looking at an exchange right now. Mike Cernovich. I've lost track of the times podcasters and others have taken shots at me. I almost always ignore. 90% plus is focusing on senators like John Curtis, who probably stole the Utah election. Total distraction to spend hours a week reacting to each other. It's slave behavior. Pretty reasonable take.
Okay.
Megyn Kelly just responded to him. Quote, disagree. You can take the high road and ignore for a while, but eventually after hundreds of tweets and attacks, you punch the bully in the rhetorical face, and then he goes running to daddy about his micro penis. This level of content, I mean, we've seen Megyn Kelly, legal expert on Fox. We've seen Megyn Kelly co-hosting the Today Show, doing corporate media. We've seen Megyn Kelly right-wing ideologue pushing back on narratives. She's almost always unflappable. She's almost always professional, right?
Yes.
You ever seen this kind of behavior out of her at all?
Well, she certainly dialed it up to 11.
Yeah. See, tell me who goes down the anti-Zionist road and comes out a better person for it. I'll wait. Tell me who goes down that road and thinks, and then after that, and then when they're about halfway, a few steps down that road, you come back thinking that person's just more well-rounded, reasonable, and rational than I can ever remember. Has that person literally ever existed, ever? This stuff is supernatural. I mean, it's supernatural. Normally unflappable people just allowing their brains to get busted.
Then we better have some supernatural answers.
Correct. Let's get to the next question.
We will go next to Michael Friege, who asks, how do you feel about Ted Cruz's recent statement that if I say Christ is king, it's the same as saying I hate Jews? And does it change your opinion of him from a purely biblical standpoint? Did he actually say that?
That's not the context of what he said. But my answer would be, of course, saying Christ is king is not anti-Semitic. And of course, a bunch of anti-Semites online have been wielding that term specifically to be anti-Semitic. So it's always about context. Okay, it's always about context. I mean, if you go home and beat your wife, who's the guy that sent this note?
Michael.
Hey, Michael, you go home and beat your wife tonight. And as you're beating the crap out of her, just say repeatedly, I love you, I love you, I love you. Maybe you've given her a black eye, broken her nose. Just scream out, I love you, over and over again. Then send me a question and say, hey, I told my wife in between during the beatings last night, at least 15 times I counted, I love her, and this is, me loving her as Christ loved the church. I mean, why am I a wife beater? Context kind of matters, doesn't it? A bit. Okay. I mean, like there's this retard Jake Shields who goes out there and posts Christ is king all the time, and then later on admits he's not even a Christian. He just does it to troll Jews. So, yeah, when all you know about someone's alleged Christianity is they post Christ as king, and they have no other contextual definitions of their Christianity at all, chances are they're an anti-Semite. And they're just an anti-Semitic troll. Now, is it anti-Semitic in and of itself to declare that Christ is king? Of course not. But if you're doing so to be anti-Semitic and a troll, you're in violation of the third commandment. You have taken the Lord's name in vain, and your eternal soul is in peril. Repent. How am I doing so far?
Pretty good, I think, yeah.
Like the mood I'm in? Going well?
You're still hinged.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
Next is this from Josh Rosenhoover. For someone who has never spoken at CPAC and held that as a fact as a badge of honor, why now does it seem like you're towing the line in order to get the invite?
Here we go.
Josh, have you listened to the last 19 minutes of this show?
What line am I towing? I don't know what line I'm towing. I don't know what line it is. Did he offer that in his question?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm happy to address if you think I'm towing some line. I'd be happy to address it. I would just need to know what that line is. That's the most respectful answer I could have. I just would need to know what that line is.
Well, what's the CPAC line? Let's start there.
I mean, I have absolutely no idea. Guys, I'm already booked to go speak in the North Dakota State GOP convention the same weekend. I couldn't speak at CPAC even if I got an invite, which I'm pretty confident is never going to happen. All right. But I have no idea. Plus, I can promise you that the North Dakota GOP convention is going to pay a lot better. So I have no idea, because I don't think CPAC pays you anything. They think that you should feel blessed to speak to them. Maybe that was true like 20 years ago. I think that's true now.
No.
Probably not. No. But again, if you have a line you think I'm towing, just tell me and I'll happily address it. You bet. I just don't know what that is.
Next, we go to Jacques Hoffman. I think that's how you say it. Some say neoconism has never truly worked because it's never truly been implemented. Is the answer then to neocon harder?
I would wonder what you think the definition of neocon is. Because again, I think most of these are terms people don't know what the meaning is. Like a lot of you think that any belief system in Christianity that believes there was going to be a future nation called Israel is dispensationalism. And that is entirely untrue. In fact, one of the greatest critics of dispensationalism was Charles Spurgeon. He debated it in England at the time where it originated as at least heterodoxical, if not flat out heresy. And he also believed that Romans 9 through 11 to be fulfilled may require a future nation of Israel one day. Jonathan Edwards, maybe the greatest preacher of colonial America, I would argue. Much of his thoughts of Judaism and the Jews is very replete with a lot of medieval Reformation era, we would call them pejoratives today, okay? And yet he also believed there would maybe have to be a future nation called Israel reconstituted in order to fulfill Romans 9 through 11 at the end of the age. And he preached about, 50 years before dispensationalism even reached America. So I think a lot of these are buzz terms, right? which is why when you guys ask me this is why my whole career, when you've asked me, Steve, are you a Calvinist or an Arminian? Ask me a specific question and I'll give you an answer. But don't ask me about a label, because a lot of people just want labels to immediately disregard you. How many people from the traditional neocon era have been on this show, Todd? You've been booking it now this is your 11th year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In the 11 years you've been booking this show, how many people that are traditionally from the neocon Bush Iraq era have you booked on this show in those 11 years, would you say?
Not many. I have no idea.
And certainly, let's just say maybe early on, maybe we still did, but as the years have gone, what would you say in the last 5 or 6 years? How many would you say?
That's what I can't even.
It would be a zero.
Yeah, I can't even think of one off the top.
Yeah. So I again, define these terms for me.
There you are, just holding the line, Steve.
Yeah, I just would want to know what the term is. And again, I'll just reiterate, I have all the same reservations about what we're trying to do in Iran that I had the day before we launched it. But I'm also not going to root against America. And number two, every time a member of the Iranian high command dies, an angel gets his wings.
Next, we go to this from Jeffrey Otto. Which is a bigger threat to the existence and position of the United States as a force for good? Artificial intelligence or James Tallarico?
It's James Tallarico for sure. And it's not even close. It's James Tallarico and what he represents. Because what he represents is the deconstruction of the rubric by which we would determine how all these technologies will be utilized. What's the moral framework? What's the legend to the map? While I do agree that as a technology, the immersiveness of AI makes it more prone to the fallibilities of human nature than the previous evolution, small e, of technology. But that still doesn't mean it's inherently wrong. For example, the dopamine hit and the rush and the sense of connection and conquest, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How many men have thrown entire empires away for sex?
A couple.
A couple. So there is something unique about the power and allure of sex that makes our fallibility uniquely prone to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we are maybe uniquely prone to destroy ourselves as men in order to acquire that connection and hit, that maybe some other sinful manifestations we would not be as reckless in being tempted by.
Right.
Fair? Right? But is that also the primary way that we perpetuate the species? And it's one of the primary ways that we have intimacy and oneness as a species? Right. See what I'm saying? Okay. So just because something is uniquely temptable doesn't mean it's uniquely bad. So listen, man, the manifestation of the systemic manifestation of what Tallarico represents makes literally everything your worst nightmare fear of AI. It literally makes everything now becomes infested with the spirit of the age. Because most things are in the eye of the beholder, and if the beholder is an unrepentant, deconstructed reprobate, then all of a sudden lots of things that previously you didn't think were nearly the threat that AI represents, right? But they're now suddenly weapons of cultural mass destruction in the hands of such people, right?
Right.
Like a police force. We need a police force, right?
Yeah.
How about James Tallarico's worldview, selecting your police force sheriffs all over America?
Oh, we got tastes of that for COVID and other things.
Correct.
Yes.
Now let's put it everywhere. Right. You'll be begging for AI to make your decisions for you if we do that. Okay? The most devastating weapon on this planet is human sinfulness. And there is no force of nothing we can concoct, no technology we could create, no form of government that we can manifest that can contain that, which is why we're 250 years into this experiment, and we're the longest running experiment in self-government in the history of this planet. Nothing's more destructive than human sinfulness. Nothing is.
And you should be terrified at the percentages of the vote that he's about to get in checks notes. Texas!
He's going to get at least 45% of the vote. So think about that. Yeah.
Teresa Dillon McSpadden says, how would you handle disabilities in the church? More often than not, those with disabilities are excluded from worship, including my own family. We were told to sit either in the rear of the sanctuary or in a back room with a TV because our autistic children were too distracting for others. We had other rules, too. We obviously don't attend that church any longer, but it has left all 5 of my children with strong concerns about Christian faith, despite our best efforts to raise them in the faith. I think the church as a whole is severely lacking in how those with disabilities are treated.
I included this in particular because there were like multiple passionate responses
To her
about
question?
this. Yeah.
So, as a general rule, the biblical worldview does not punish people for a state of being. Meaning, I was born with a disability. I was born with, we're in a sinful world. So there's going to be maladies. There's going to be imperfections within our species because we're in a sinful world. So traditionally, the Christian worldview has actually been what has stood up for those born with those infirmities, while the rest of the world and the rest of these cultures were eager to discard them. So that should be the default setting for sure. Okay? Did I say it was an absolute, though?
No.
Right? Because we also, and I'm not in, Teresa, your situation. I didn't see the behavior. I didn't see the way the church reacted, okay? But we also cannot have the entire church held to the standard of a few people with disabilities at the same time if they're unable to focus when reverence is being paid. So it's a give and take that should be part of any healthy relationship between a church and its congregates. There should be, the grace should err on the side of giving more accommodation to those with infirmities. But at the same time, we do have to have order. We do have to have that. God is a God of order, right? So I'm not confident that in this particular church age, we would probably do that very well, right? If you're in the way of the 4 songs and the mixed sermon for 28 minutes and us getting the next 3 services in here, you see what I'm trying to say? Like, in this age, my bias would be to be sympathetic to you, frankly, because of a lot of the McChurch that goes on in America today. But it's not an absolute standard either that we have to accommodate just these people for the entirety of the congregation either. There's a balance. There's a give and take there. And that's where good and sympathetic and convictional leadership in a church is required.
The Steve Deace Show.
So after tomorrow's show, I'm heading to Nashville to do my next Ask Me Anything for TPUSA Faith. We're going to be at Middle Tennessee University there in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I'm going to be bringing with me my Chirp stuff, my rolling power mini massager, my mini foam roller, trigger point rollout. These things, man, they are literal lifesavers in terms of staying active, getting active, staying healthy as best you can, particularly as we get older. And you want to see the entire catalog of what Chirp has available to you. And then if you travel a lot, or just even a little bit, or maybe you're working a job where you're tough on your feet all day, you're swinging that hammer on a roof. The Chirp Contour gives you a decompression massage table with professional grade relief like spinal decompression, soothing massage, and more, all from the comfort of your own home. So you're going to get industry quality devices without the expensive appointments that are very time consuming at the same time. FDA cleared devices. Almost every product is FSA or HSA eligible as well to try to make it as affordable as possible. So go to GoChirp, like a birdie chirp, CHIRP, GoChirp.com/Steve, GoChirp.com/Steve, and check out the full menu of what they have available there, like the rolling power mini massager that's going to be in my carry-on suitcase when I leave tomorrow from Chirp. GoChirp.com/Steve, CHIRP, GoChirp.com/Steve. All right. Should we continue on?
Let's go.
All right.
We will continue on with Todd Miller, who says, I've never heard you guys really address the problem of online predators and Satanists on your show. It's a huge problem, and these people are using online games and forums to reach kids. Many parents are completely unaware that these things are dangerous.
You know what? It's probably because you've still got a couple school-age kids at home, but they're older, right? I have no kids that are school-aged, and all my kids are adults now. Aaron's kids are not yet of the age where they're still pretty young, where that's a problem yet. So that is a thing that generationally would have slipped through our fingers for sure.
Well,
So
as I understand it, there are now online gaming communities that are basically Reddit forums. And they've talked about that this is one of the ways they got to Tyler Robinson. Just way too many parents are letting it screen time of all kinds. You're tired, you don't want to have the argument, you just want your me time, you just sedate them, give them the thing. On every level, that's going nowhere good. The anonymous communities of who knows what, whether they're adults or teenagers, is just, if they plug into that matrix, don't be shocked what comes out the other side.
Next, we go to Christopher Juneman, who says, the question I have for both you and Todd is, how do you guys feel about having to pay more money to fill our cars with gas because of the war in Iran right now? And what would you like Congress to do in Washington, D.C., since we're paying too much on gas right now? Apparently, I don't exist in Christopher's
That's
world.
why this question is there. I didn't understand. Have I been more jingoistic
Aaron
about
just
it
teleports.
than Aaron? Why does Aaron get left out? Why do I get put in? That what was fascinating to me about this.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of jingoistic boomers now. Actually, the boomers were not jingoistic. Our generation has been fairly jingoistic. That part's true. Okay. So maybe that's the assumption there. We're generationally profiling. Aaron, as the millennial, knows that all U.S. military action is nothing but a complete front for the military industrial complex, right? That's kind of the generational bias in that direction. But listen, I mean, I'm not enjoying spending COVID or $70 to fill my trunk up, I think is what it just cost me. Pretty close to it. I'm not enjoying that. I'm not like, oh man, let's do this again. Let's do this some more. So, have you guys, am I like posting like a whole bunch of flag waving content? Am I doing that?
Well, to him, you are at all by supporting the war in any way, whatever it is, the police action, whatever it is, by supporting it at all. That's clearly what's implied here.
A lot of things can be simultaneously true. It can be simultaneously true that I can't sit here as someone whose job it is to try to be fairly informed anyway. And I can't sit here and tell you I can't even begin to contemplate what comes next in Iran if we topple the regime. I sincerely do not know. I also know that every time we kill a member of this regime, the world's a better place. I have no idea what our exit strategy is. I don't know what severely degrade their military so that they can't harm Americans and get in the way of American interest. I understand what that means. I just don't understand how that's applied, right? So I don't know what that, especially in an era where you can just have terror sleeper cells all over the world and a handful of people, if not just individuals, can wreak havoc, right? I'm not sure exactly what that means in terms of how we apply that as a standard, But I also know that Iran can never, ever have a nuclear weapon for all the reasons we're just having this part of the conversation right here. I know we're not, whatever odds we have of not getting annihilated in these midterms go to negative integers if gas remains at $3.80 a gallon, the current national average. I also know that once we are now in this, the worst move we could make, in my view, is to cut it short by a week or two because we're panicked over gas prices. And then all of a sudden you got to go back to the American people again in 6 months and say, well, we didn't get everybody. See what I'm saying? I mean, it kind of seems to me if you're going to do it now, you got to see it through. But You also want to see it through as quickly as you possibly can, right? You know? These are all reasons why I was leery about this before we did it. Those are all reasons why. All right? Because how to navigate all these things simultaneously, I don't know how to do that. It's beyond me. You know, I'm not the president. He's the one that has to navigate those things, him and his team. I don't know how to navigate them. But these things are all simultaneously true. And that means this, you know, simple attempts at simple explanations for things aren't appropriate, but things get real simple when you can't afford to put the diesel in your truck, right? Things get real simple then when the $7 a gallon for diesel gets passed on to every good and service that you're trying to purchase that was using that diesel to get it to you, right? You know, this is the danger of all these things. You know, I don't begrudge your point at all. It's a verifiable lament, you know?
Pitting variables against one another, if you're honest with yourself, is a very important thought exercise. So if you're being honest with yourself, you also have to go both ways. Like, is just because gas getting more expensive that this is not worth getting into? Well, you don't know that either. Secondly, and I will say, listen, right now on the table, just as of this weekend, there are now Marines, 2,400 of them, if memory serves, that are now being sent to the Middle East. Not sure, the language is vague, but I do know some of them are from Japan, where my oldest daughter's boyfriend is stationed as a Marine. He's going somewhere else for training, but he knows some of these guys. So yeah, this is getting closer and closer to home. And I will tell you, comparing variables like you're doing, one that does come to mind that I will have questions of, and I will be comparing, if we're going over there to fight and putting our boys at risk, but we can't pass the SAVE Act here at home, I'll be comparing variables. That's for damn sure.
Hey, listen, I mean, I've got a son-in-law who's enlisted right now. He was told that if Biden wins, they're all going to Syria, his unit is. Then Biden didn't win, and then they let the parts of his unit that volunteered basically to go to Syria to go. I still have no idea why they ever had to be in Syria at all, regardless whether Trump is president or Biden is. I have no idea. And then where do we pull all our troops out of before Operation Epic Fury launched? Syria. Again, I still have all these various questions and reservations. But I'm not Sean Penn. Okay? Much of what Tucker's doing is Sean Penn level stuff. Let me go hang out with Daniel Ortega and Castro and Gorbachev because Reagan's going to blow up the world. Okay? That's kind of what's going on here now.
And I think your conversation with Bob needs to be kind of reset, because I don't think we understand how much people have been beaten down by the half-assed prosecution of whatever was being prosecuted in Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. And that's the only lens people can see it through. And now, even if this is absolutely necessary, A, and B, is being adjudicated militarily in the best possible way, people just don't even have the frame of reference anymore for seeing that. And that's too bad, and that's on everything that has gone before. You and Bob actually set that up nicely, but I don't think you, I think you could have reset that over and over and over again about how people are broken because of how many men have died for what.
I'm rooting for America, but I'm not I'm not trading a bunch of flag-waving text with a bunch of my friends all over the country, let alone with you guys. I've even traded a lot of those privately.
No.
At the same token, I think Trump has earned a level of credibility on the foreign policy front, and therefore a level of margin that I would not grant him on some other areas. You know? So like every time the Maha people freak out, I don't blame you guys for freaking out at all. Right? Because we saw Trump completely buckle to the COVID narrative. Lost his entire presidency to it, right?
Yes.
So I don't blame the Maha people. You guys see me, the Maha people freak out all the time. You ever see me once like check those people? Hey, patience. You ever see me do that one time?
Not aggressively. So, I mean, just counseled strategy, but that's it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame you for freaking out at all. He's in this area, he's totally unproven. Frankly, pretty much everybody's totally unproven in this area. We're proving things right now. But on the foreign policy side, this has been Trump's the most successful foreign policy president of my time that I could legally vote in America. So he's going to get a lot of margin, not to mention the fact, while I'm enjoying reading the obituaries for every Iranian leader, I'm enjoying them at the same time knowing I have no idea that we even know what comes in after we get rid of all these people. Right. I don't know the answer to that. I don't. But I'm not rooting against my country. I'm not.
Next up is Peggy Schrader, who asks, what's wrong with awarding electoral college votes based on percentage of votes?
Is this about the note we had last week of changing this to instead of the percentage of people who... Oh, she wants them proportionally given. That's what she's saying then, across the board.
Well,
as opposed to a winner-take-all?
Well, this is like what? Nebraska and Maine do this?
Yeah, they have a bit of a split, yeah.
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 I wanted to see what you had to say. I mean, nothing's wrong, like morally.
Nothing's morally wrong. Politically, it would demolish our side if we did that, because they control the major population centers. That's why they want a national popular vote. This would be just another variation of that. It's another variation. It's not a pure popular vote, but it's a step in that direction. So the founders created this system specifically for proper proportionality, so that you would not have a handful of states in the Northeast completely just dictating total and complete policy to the rest of the original 13 states. And then as you're expanding the country, a lot of these territories were also more agrarian, more rural. So all the Northwest Ordinance states then all have to go by whatever Massachusetts and Connecticut come up with, because that's where most of the people lived back in those days, right? So, but as a general rule, here's what I'm in favor of. Do whatever it takes to win, except that which the Word of God says we can't do. So if there are states where proportional electoral college votes would help us, then let's, like California. In California, I hope they do proportional electoral college votes, right? Because we get a few.
Yes.
Okay. In our state, should Alabama do it?
No.
Should Mississippi do it?
No.
Georgia? Well, actually, way Georgia trended, maybe. Okay. But you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
All right. In the states where we're in control, it's retarded. In the states where we're not, totally in favor of it. Do whatever it takes to win, except that which God. What did I say Nebraska should do? Nebraska should in 24 absolutely put its electoral college votes together, okay, and then after the election in the next session change it back, just in case we lose the next one, and we're in a war. Don't just stand there and get shot. Got to be nimble. Move. Got to be nimble. So I'm for whatever it takes to win that doesn't violate the Word of God. And change in all the electoral college votes as many times you need to get the announcement, to get the results you want. As long as that's above board and not done after the fact, right, through the proper legislative process. Is any of that unbiblical at all?
No.
No. In fact, I would say it's very Boaz level shrewd. So do it, as Zoolander once said. Folks, if you're struggling with too much chronic pain, that's because you probably have too much inflammation in your body. That's where our friends at Relief Factor come into play. It's only $20 to try the 3-week quick start to see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less. Over 1 million people have tried that quick start over the years. 70% of them saw such great results that they stuck with the product long term. So why don't you see if you don't see a difference in just 3 weeks or less, especially when it's just $20 to find out at relieffactor.com. Again, head over right now to relieffactor.com. All right, how many do we have left for the overtime, Aaron?
We only have 3 left.
Oh, beautiful. We'll do those in the overtime for Blaze TV subscribers today. I don't want to jinx it, but it appears the Apple issue actually has been fixed. I've noticed our podcast ranking has soared. All right. I think we were like 75th in our category. We're now back into the top 15 where we typically are, or top 15 or 20. All right. What are you seeing on the download side, Aaron?
I'm seeing more downloads for the last 2 episodes, which were the suspect episodes, than I saw 2 hours ago. Also have some breaking news from our President Gaston Mooney for all of those who have been asking for this for quite a while. I think today will be the first day we will be on Spotify video.
Oh, okay.
Are we going to be like the Apple comeback story of the year?
I need that. You know what I really need? And my retirement fund really needs us to be the YouTube comeback story of the year. That's what it really needs.
Did you click on what I sent you?
I haven't been doing the show. but it's on my list for after the show. And I wasn't in a position I could take any more bad news right now.
It's not bad news, though.
I mean, I was down bad.
It's not bad news.
Okay. All right. Todd, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, you were a gamer today. Good job.
I did. I played emotionally hurt today. I almost took a mental health day. I almost did. I played emotionally hurt today. I did. My brain was out there limping a little bit. I Willis Reeded it though, man. Right? My brain came out there hobbling on one cerebellum, man. It was on one synapse. But I gave it my all. I played this one hurt. I did. Thought America needed that. Deserved it, in fact. Aaron, your thoughts?
Agreed.
I
could tell he was insulting me.
We're not going to put you on the couch. We don't need to mine any deeper. Just get it out of the system today. Come back tomorrow.
Well, the couch we have is broken.
That's true. We broke the couch. The couch is broken too. I think we're back tomorrow. Till then, go hard, Romans 8:28.